That's coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets, casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Tick your check. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, regroup. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
All right, what's up, everyone? We are back with another DFS Army Killshot MMA fantasy breakdown podcast. We're looking at UFC Fight Night 190, Gane versus Volkov. And as always, I've got the MMA goats themselves, the fearsome twosome, Dan Levy of Best Fight Picks, BigMarley of BigMarley.com. What's up, fellas? Welcome to another Killshot.
Thank
Good
you,
to be here.
friend.
Hell yeah. We've got a pretty exciting card. And I think Dan, everybody's excited about this main event because Cyril Gane, I mean, who is he? Is he a title challenger? Is he the next big thing at heavyweight? Is this the guy that's going to, stand up to Francis Ngannou? And of course, Alexander Volkov, he's been here. He's done that. He's sort of been around the block, good striker, waiting for his turn. What do you say, Dan?
No, I mean, it's all correct. You got Cyril Gane. He is that guy. He's definitely going to challenge for a title, regardless of if he wins or loses this fight. And Volkov, looking the best he's ever looked, has had a long career, has paid his dues. It's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. Really tough to call. Big Marley, man. What's up with Cyril Gane? Are we overexcited about him? He hasn't, he just looks good. He hasn't knocked everybody out. He hasn't been the killer that Ngannou was early on.
Now, it's hard to say that we're overexcited just because, maybe how bad the division is, but he just looks like a real talent. And I do think he is like the future. He'll fight Ngannou for a title at some point. But yeah, as Dan said, he's meeting Volkov like in the prime of his career. So it just makes this fight so exciting. I think the winner should be next for Ngannou, as long as they're not doing a Stipe rematch. I'm not even sure about that. But these are the two I've been keeping my eye on, and I'm pumped for this main event.
Yeah, this card as a whole, I'm going to give it like slightly better than last week's in terms of the star power / interest level in the fights themselves. So let's get on with it, guys. Let's jump right into it. Starting at the bottom as always, prelims. We'll make our way to the main event, break them all down, fantasy perspective. So we're going to be taking a look at these fights, not just from a who's going to win standpoint. Who's going to win is always important. But I also like to focus on how the fight's going to play out and does this person, if they win, score really well? Because that's the key if we're talking FanDuel, DraftKings, Super Draft, Fantasy. And then, of course, we want to consider, the betting odds and all of those things. So let's start at the very beginning here. We've got a fight that was supposed to happen a few weeks ago, rescheduled. Damir Hazovic taking on Yancy Medeiros, with Damir coming in as a slight -150 favorite. Yancy at +125. Fight goes to decision, -150. So, Dan, I'll go to you. You already broke this fight down in the past because this was supposed to happen like a month ago. We're back to it. Damir, Yancy, couple strikers. What wins out here? Both of these guys kind of do the same thing.
No, listen, last time I picked Damir, but I also said this is a 50-50 fight. You can flip a coin. So I'm going to flip a coin, and I'm going to pick Yancy this time because I truly believe these guys fight 10 times. It could go either way each time. So last time I thought Damir was going to win. This time I think Yancy's going to win. Look, Damir is the one that pulled out the fight. He's the one that has something wrong with him. And in addition to that, his wife just had a kid. So congratulations to the Hazoviches. They just welcomed a baby to the world. But I know that baby is way more important than this fight, man. and also staying up all night. Listen, you guys remember what happened the last time Damir Hazovic's wife had a kid? It was the fight when he fought Christos Giagos, and he put on the absolute worst performance of his career, and he was a -250 favorite in that spot. Cost a lot of people a lot of money. So this time I got Yancey. Look, Yancey's last fight, it did not look the best until like literally he lost 14 minutes and like 30 seconds of that fight. But in those final 30 seconds, I finally saw Yancey pull the trigger. He started teeing off on Lando a little bit, clearly too late. If he can come out here and start fast, I think he can win this fight, because these are two guys in the same spot of the lightweight division in terms of level. So it could be anyone's night on any given day. I'm going to go Yancey this time.
Did not sound like a very confident Yancey, but there we go. Big Marley, what do you say, man?
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty 50-50. I like Medeiros just based on volume. Hazovic, I'd say he's the more powerful guy, maybe more likely to get a knockout. But for DraftKings, he has to get a knockout. He just doesn't do enough work to score well in a decision. He's not going to be looking to chain wrestle at all. So it's just going to be a striking battle where I think Medeiros is the one throwing and landing more. And he's also cheaper. I think he has a lot easier time paying off his $7,700 price tag than Hazovic does, $8,500. So I won't be on too much Damir here. Maybe a couple deep GPP shots in case he gets the knockout. But I'm cool with Yancey in all formats. He's an underdog. I like to win. But, yeah, it is more of a coin flip fight. So it's picking him because he's the underdog. No confidence at all in Yancey at this point.
Man, Yancey got like a little bit of hype behind him couple of years back, and then they gave him a string of studs to go up against with Cowboy Cerrone and then Sir Gregor Gillespie. And finally, I don't know if I'd call Lando Venata a stud, but they gave him a tough run. He's coming off a bunch of losses from that tougher run. And Damir Hazovic on the flip side, he's a guy that just can't wrestle. Like if he goes up against somebody with takedowns, he tends to lose. Yancey does not have the takedown. So, these two guys are just going to battle it out striking. The first thing for me is with the high decision prop, neither one is a high volume guy. This fight does, and both guys are pretty durable. This fight does not stand out to me as one I want to target for fantasy purposes at all. I mean, I might take a couple shots here and there, but I have a hard time seeing Yancey knocking Damir out, and maybe Damir can do it. Maybe Damir has a little bit more power. I'm also a little skeptical of this 3 strikes per minute number on Hazovic, because a lot of that's coming at times when he's being taken down by his opponents. He's not throwing strikes. So like his weakness is getting taken down. He's just not a very good grappler. So for me, this is pretty much a fade fight. I'm going to go with Damir here as winning a decision, but low confidence, and more importantly to me, I'm just not super interested in this fight for DraftKings or Fanduel purposes at all. I just don't think it's going to score well. So let's move on, guys. Let's go to fight number 2. Man, is this a tough one. Charles Rosa taking on Justin James. Rosa coming in at -175. James at +145. Fight doesn't go to decision. A reasonably high -150, Big Marley. So let's talk about these two guys and how you think this fight's going to go down.
So yeah, James is mostly a power puncher early in the fight, and then as the fight goes along, he starts to slow down. He really gassed out in that Gavin Tucker fight, and we just haven't seen him go long enough to show that he's improved that cardio at all. I really just don't think he's UFC ready. He came in on short notice, got a quick, easy knockout over Camacho, and that made him have a somewhat bigger name. But he hasn't done anything since then, and Rosa's just the more proven vet. I think he has a big edge on the mat in this fight, and if he can make it out of round 1, I like him to win it or get a late finish of his own, because I think taking down gassed James will be pretty easy, and if he can get him down a couple times, I think he works his way to a submission. So I like Rosa. He's not a high volume guy at all, and I don't know how much success he'll have wrestling in round 1. So I don't think we have to have him at 8,600, but I do want some because I think he gets a submission, has some groundwork with some control time leading up to it. And then on the Jane side, he's probably my preferred play just because if he wins, it's likely 100+ points. It's an early knockout. And that's what I'm targeting, just a boom bust. Give me a guy who can end up in that 100K lineup. And this is a card where I really don't like many underdogs, so that's another reason James is probably my preferred play of the two, even though I'm picking him to lose. But I'll be throwing this fight into a good amount of GPPs because I don't think we'll need the judges for it, mostly based on James's gassing style. Go for that kill in round one, and if it doesn't work out for you, it's just downhill from there.
How about you, Dan? Do you agree with Marley here? High scoring potential fight with Rosa, the probable winner?
I don't know, man. I think Rosa's looked terrible since he came back from that surgery. He after the Shane Burgos fight in 2017, he took 2 years off, had that surgery, and I just think he's looked like awful. Like the Bryce Mitchell and the Derek Minner fights, like that was a sign of someone that's not UFC caliber anymore. And to talk about this whole first rounder bust thing, like, isn't Derek Minner first rounder bust? Like, Derek Minner is the definition of first rounder, but Derek Minner is the guy that's got like 26 first round finishes and historically always loses when a fight goes past the first round. And you got Derek Minner out here 30-26ing this guy. So I don't think first rounder bust is going to mean shit here because Charles Rosa is too physically weak to do anything. Like, he was never athletic to begin with, but he's Boston strong, so he was able to be tough in some of these fights. But now, like, since whatever happened in that surgery, whatever's happened those last 2 years off, I have no idea, but he can't do what he used to do. So I don't think it even matters if it goes past the first round. I got Justin James here because, like, look at the guys that Justin James has lost to. Like, I understand on paper that he is 1-3 in the UFC. So you see a 1-3 guy, and obviously, that sucks. But Gavin Tucker, who's like, borderline top 15, Gabriel Benitez, who has tough fights with every single person he fights, and Devontae Smith, who's a top prospect. So, like, imagine what all three of those guys would do to Charles Rosa, man. All three of those guys would beat Charles Rosa for a fact. So, to me, this is a dogger pass situation, and no matter what happens, you cannot lay this kind of price on Charles Rosa, period, point blank, because he's not a guy who's going to actively come out here and get takedowns. He doesn't have one-punch knockout power. When he wins fights, he kind of squeaks by, and occasionally he'll get the occasional sub. So I don't see anything about Charles Rosa, especially this current version, to warrant him being a big what is he right now? What's his price? -170 or something like that?
Minus
yeah,
-175.
-1. Could you imagine laying -175 on Charles Rosa after that Derek Minner fight? So yeah, Justin James or pass. I got Justin James. I'm gonna say by decision since he's allegedly a first rounder bust guy, because Charles Rosa. I mean, like, seriously, like, the 2 fights that he's won since he's been back. Did you guys see what Kevin Aguilar looked like at the weigh-ins? He looked like he was 6 months pregnant. And then
Aguilar looking just like shit in general.
Manny Bermudez wanted to break the record for most consecutive weight misses in UFC history. So I got Justin James to break his slump, get back on track, and get this win. And then we'll talk about fading Justin James's very next fight.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pattern here, though. There is a little math pattern going on with Rosa that I do want to point out. It goes like this: win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. Win, loss, win. Yeah,
but look at Andre Fili. Look at Randa Marcos. All those fucking trends always come to an end.
They do come to an end. That's like standing by the roulette wheel, and it's hit black 7 times in a row. You're like, dude, fucking put it all on red. Not even, bro. 50-50. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Patterns don't mean shit. But it is interesting to note the pattern. But you're right. Listen, Rosa, I can make excuses. Okay, I can make an excuse for the loss to Derek Minner. Minner now training at under what's his name? They got the new, what the fuck's his name? Of course, I forget his name.
James Krause, but come on, who gives a fuck, man? Like Derek Minner is a first rounder bust guy, just like Justin James.
But maybe Krause fixed him. Maybe Bryce Mitchell. I can't like make fun of a loss to Bryce Mitchell. That dude is ridiculous. I mean, Bryce Mitchell owned him. But Bryce Mitchell looks really good. Like, I like Bryce Mitchell now. Thug nasty. Shane Burgos. Okay. Yair Rodriguez. So these losses aren't horrible, but he has not looked visually very good in the fight. That's the biggest concern here. I just don't think Jane's looked very good at all either. I think Jane's looks like shit. So this to me is two bad fighters facing off. I'm going with Rosa in this one is my pick to win it. But I totally agree in the sense that Jane's, if he's winning, he could flash knock him out. We've at least seen him do that a couple times. I'm not sure that Rosa's path to the win is a high scoring type path. So I have concerns. I'm definitely not like an all in on this fight guy by any stretch because I can't trust Rosa. Definitely not betting him. I actually bet him in the fight against Aguilar and sweated the shit out of it. That was like, oh my God, I thought I lost it. Quite honestly, I could have lost that fight. So Jane's good fantasy play. Rosa's my pick to win this one. All right, let's move on, guys. We've got Julia Avila taking on Yulia Stoliarenko. There we go. Avila's coming in at minus 375 with Stoliarenko. Man, I should have practiced that one before we started this. Coming in at plus 280. Fight goes to decision minus 150. So reasonably high fight goes to decision prop. Now, Dan, I mean, Julia Avila's looked really good in the UFC so far. She's a pretty heavy favorite. How is Stoliarenko even in the UFC? What is she doing in the UFC? She hasn't shown that she belongs here. What the hell's going on?
I mean, let's see. Did she win an Invicta belt or anything like that? Let me check. Because, if they win that Invicta belt, they get signed. But the issue with this fight is, I mean, look, I'm picking. Okay, yeah, she won the Invicta belt. So that's why she got signed.
All right.
That's how it goes. But basically, the issue with this fight is it's minus like 400 Julia Avila. And it might be a close split decision, or Stoliarenko might get an armbar. She's an armbar specialist. And also, Julia Avila just got kicked out of her own gym, so we don't know what her training situation is. So, look, yeah, I mean, if we're talking, a slight favorite or even a moderate favorite, Julia Avila, okay, I understand. But minus 400 when it's just, this has the potential to be a close fight, I'm like, fuck that shit. So I don't want no part, but Julia Avila is the pick.
Feel that. Big Marley, you think this fight has what it takes to be worth rostering? I mean, you roster Avila here. You're paying. You need a first round sub. I don't know that she's getting that. I wouldn't even say she's likely to get that.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's more likely to get a knockout than a submission. But yeah, I'm not too interested in this fight. If Stoliarenko wins, it's probably an armbar. I think she's armbar or bust, but if she gets it early, sure, she's on the nuts. But she's not a good wrestler, so I feel like it's an armbar from guard spot, and then we need Avila to look for takedowns for that to happen. I do think she's the better wrestler. Could get takedowns, could do a lot of work in top control, but that's where the danger lies. So I don't see why she would do that. I think she'll just keep this fight against the cage or use her striking to either look for a knockout or win a clear striking decision. I think she's the much better striker of the two. But if she doesn't get a knockout or look to wrestle, she's not going to score high. So not looking to pay up for Avila, but I think she's a comfortable win, so she's a fine cash game play.
Yeah, I think she'll get the win, but 9,300, man, unless she gets that first or at worst case, high volume second round finish, she's not going to pay off. So another fight for me that's pretty easy on the favorite side. Like Avila, I'm not interested in almost at all in terms of DraftKings play and Fanduel play. Yeah, I still, even if I've said the name multiple times, Stoliarenko. Yeah, if she ekes out a decision, striking based decision here, okay. Or throws on a sub, okay, but very, very low exposure for me. I'm not excited about this fight. I am excited about this next fight, though. We've got Isaac Villanueva taking on Marcin Prachnio. With Prachnio as a minus 200 favorite, fight doesn't go to decision, minus 187. Big numbers. Big Marley. We've got the guy with no chin in Prachnio who finally showed a chin in his last fight. And looked all right against freaking Isaac Villanueva. I don't know what to say about this guy other than could be the worst fighter I've ever seen get multiple fights in the UFC.
I mean, that's same for both of them. They're both not good. If we have to lose a fight on this card, I hope it's this one. Not looking forward to it at all, but it kind of sucks for DraftKings because we almost have to target it because of their chins. If one of them gets knocked out early, we're going to need it. I think Prachnio is the more talented of the two. I think he'll be the higher paced striker as well a little bit, but man, I'm not trying to force either one of these guys into lineups, and I'm going to hand build assuming Prachnio wins a decision because I don't think either guys are going to score well in a decision here. But with MME, I'll let the DS decide what I'm going to do with it. I think we do need some of it because both of them have weak chins. They've been like TKO'd combined 9 times, I believe, between the two of them. So it wouldn't shock me if one of them went down in 60 seconds for a slate-breaking KO. I'll side with Prachnio as the win, but I just hate this fight.
Dan, once you lose to the Beverly Hills Ninja, they should revoke your UFC card. You're out.
I mean, it was a cut, so it's not like he got his ass beat or anything. Cut stoppages are unfortunate, but bottom line with this fight is, Prachnio, firstly, he's got no chin whatsoever. Got knocked out his first 3 UFC fights, and people are, he's a minus 225 favorite because he beat Khalil Roundtree. If you actually watch how that fight played out, Prachnio is a karate guy. He's got good kicks. He's got good distance, but he's got no chin, and his hands aren't the best either. So Khalil's game plan, for some reason, was to go out there and trade kicks with him. So you trade kicks with a guy that is a good kicker, then, that's not touching his chin, and he just didn't let his hands go in that fight. And the one time that he did, he actually wobbled Prachnio. So the big difference here is that Ike Villanueva ain't about to come out here throwing kicks. Ike Villanueva is going to throw big bombs and try to knock this guy out. So this is a coin flip fight, and one side is plus 175. So I'm going with Isaac Villanueva via first-round knockout.
That is a fucking bold call, my man. That's a bold call, and it feels like a kill shot.
Hold on.
Save it.
Wait. What's so bold about?
Just to think, Isaac Villanueva.
Let me finish. What's so bold about picking Marcin Prachnio to get knocked out in a UFC fight? This guy's got no chin. He's been knocked out his first 3 fights, and in his last fight with Khalil, the one time Khalil decided to let his hands go, he rocked the guy. So this is not a bold call. This is a brawler versus a guy with no chin, and the brawler's plus 175.
Man, is this brawler though? Does he throw hard? I'm just saying.
Let me ask you this. How many knockouts does he have on his record?
Well, I'm going to take a look here. Let's bring it up because this is not a guy who's all right.
How many knockouts does he have on his record?
Let's go. Win by punches. There you go. I can't count an 18-4 when you an 8-14 guy, but here you go. That wasn't
the question. How many wins does he have by knockout?
It's quite a few. Listen, the guy's knocking people out. There's no doubt about it.
Okay. What kind of chin does Prachnio have?
The chin has not looked good in the UFC.
Exact. That's all you had to say. The pick here is Isaac Villanueva via first-round knockout, and this is a dog or pass situation. If you are laying minus 225 on Prachnio, that is there's something seriously wrong with that.
Oh yeah, don't lay that. Definitely not something. This is like I said. This is a crazy fight. Tough to bet it. I just don't think Villanueva is anywhere near a UFC fighter. I also don't think Prachnio is a UFC fighter, but I think at least he's fit and in shape for whatever that's worth. The guys who knocked, I can't excuse, man. I can't excuse the Mike Rodriguez loss, and that's the one that gets me. You get knocked out by Magomed Ankalaev. All right, that's a bad dude. He's a bad bitch, right? Sam Alvey, he's got that skill set of knocking people out on him. We've seen him do it.
Yeah, but did you see that fight? Did you see him just running like a total moron and get clipped by Sam Alvey? Like, bro, there's no defense here for Prachnio.
Yeah, no, I remember that one very well. The slow Mike loss. That's bad. But then it was 100% that Khalil Roundtree was going to knock this guy out, and he didn't. So It's a tough one.
Why didn't he knock him out? The reason why is because he tried to trade kicks with him. He didn't throw his hands. So, I mean, listen, like, you got to at least do your end of the bargain, and Khalil didn't. So it was honestly more about what Khalil did wrong than what Prachnio did right. If Khalil decided to go headhunting, he would have knocked this guy out guaranteed. And I know Villanueva is going to headhunt. So for Villanueva to lose, look, if he gets caught with a kick, this guy, I ain't saying Villanueva's Mr. Durable or anything like that. All I'm saying is this fight should be minus 115 apiece, and one guy's plus 175.
That's totally fair. And listen, I agree. This is a guy, Villanueva, who got knocked out by the vanilla gorilla. Like, Sherman, to me, is the bottom of the barrel guy also. So
heavyweight though.
Yeah, at heavy,
weight class.
For sure. And he looks a little better, a little thinner. Ike at heavy, he was a disaster. So for me, it goes like this. This fight looks very good from a DraftKings, Fanduel, Super Draft, fantasy perspective overall. Because both guys, questionable chins, both guys are going to be throwing for the finish. Neither guy is very good. So that's a good combination for scoring well. There'll be no grappling here. Both guys want to stand and bang. No one's interested in going for a takedown. But we'll need a finish. I think you have to have Ike exposure for exactly the reasons that you said. The fight's probably lined a little too wide, and the winners probably get, the way this guy loses is by getting knocked out. So you have to have that exposure in your tournament lineups and your tournament approach, because that's a 100-pointer. But Prachnio is my pick to win the fight. I just will never trust Ike Villanueva to beat anybody. And I think Prachnio is actually probably not a bad fighter if it wasn't for the chin issues. But it's just really hard for me to predict. Like I said, you see the chin issues, and then you're like, wait a minute. He's going up against Khalil Roundtree, who's a knockout guy. Should have been knocked out. Like, that should have happened. Khalil doesn't do the right thing there. Throws kicks, doesn't throw fist enough. Fine. But, chin issues, when it happens, there's, I don't know, recency bias. I don't know what to put of it. Getting knocked out by slow Mike means you can get knocked out by anybody, though. So no trust whatsoever, which means you have to have some Ike Villanueva exposure here. Even though for me, I'm going to pick Prachnio to get the win. All right. Next up, we've got Warlley Alves taking on Jeremiah Wells. Alves coming in at minus 225. Wells plus 190 as the underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision. A very sexy BigMarley. Not a very sexy BigMarley, but a very sexy minus 225. And a very sexy BigMarley.
And a very sexy BigMarley.
Yes. To break it down, 17-inch guns. What's up?
Thanks, guys. This is a good one for DraftKings because of Alves' style. I mean, he's almost a kill or be killed fighter. He's really good in round one, and then he starts to fade out. But in this fight, Wells is kind of the same. He hadn't fought in like 2 years. He's a huge musclehead who's throwing to kill you in round one, and he'll slow down as the fight moves along as well. So I think Wells' best path in this one, taking the fight on short notice, like 8 days notice, something like that, I think is a first-round knockout. And first round is when Alves is the best. I think Alves has a fairly big edge on the mat, especially if he's in top control or if he can lock on a guillotine. But I also think he's the better all-around striker. So I'm going to go with Alves in this one. He's not a guy I like to trust, over minus 200. But on DraftKings, 9,200. If this fight ends early, I think it's more likely him, and he can get 100-plus points. So he's going to be, just in general, this is going to be a GPP fight that I like to target because I think Wells does score well if he's able to win. It's just knockout or bust for him. So give me Alves in GPP only because I can't trust him in cash games, but I think he puts up a high score.
There we go. How about you, Dan? You on the veteran here?
The veteran is like almost like 5 or 6 years younger than the newcomer. So, listen, man, it's one of these situations where Warlley Alves, in high-level fights is first round or bust, against the best guys on planet Earth, against guys that can push a serious pace. The only thing is Jeremiah Wells is not one of the best guys on planet Earth, and Jeremiah Wells cannot push that serious pace that's going to cause Warlley to gas. And also, another way to make Warlley gas is to get your ass beat, weather the storm, and then come back. But the guys that are doing stuff like that, I mean, we're talking about like Randy Brown, who's, these are like established UFC fighters. We're talking about a guy in Warley Alves that went the distance with Kamaru Usman and won a round in that fight, right? So it's just a completely different level here with Jeremiah Wells. Not only does he not push the pace, but he's in his last fight that, went the distance. It was actually a 5-round fight. The last time he fought a Brazilian, by the way, he was running away the entire fight, and he's side kicking and running. Side kicking and running is not the way to beat Warley Alves. If you want to beat Warley Alves, firstly, you got to be able to take an ass whooping. Jeremiah Wells runs away from the fight. And secondly, you got to push a hectic pace. Jeremiah Wells does not push a hectic pace. So, look, Jeremiah Wells has some physical tools. I've seen him knock 2 guys out in under a minute, but the last guy he knocked out in under a minute was 40 years old. I'm not exaggerating. Click that dude. Tell me how old it says he is.
Smallman 29, but let's go to the guy before that.
That was. I'm talking about the knockout, not the submission.
Yeah, Free Mumia, baby, 40 years old.
Okay, exactly. So, and then the other one, I mean, it's like, so
a 40-year-old
guy,
by the way, with only 4 professional. Dude, that's a late start, man.
I'm not even worried about this guy's power, and then he's also a bit of a lay-in prayer. He's a runner and a side kicker. I don't understand why they put him in there with Miguel Baeza initially. I know Miguel had some, clearance issues with the commission. He wasn't able to take that fight. Miguel was going to light this guy up. I guess it's maybe because he's 34 years old, and if you're ever going to make a run, you got to make your run now. I guess that's why. But Jeremiah Wells is in over his head here, man. I think if it's a finish, it's going to be a Warley Alves finish. I think if it's a decision, it's going to be a Warley Alves decision. I got Warley Alves to win this fight, and I'm wondering why the biggest line I see is -240. I'm curious why it's not -400 or -350. I guess because the whole first round or bust thing. But if you really want to talk numbers, Warley Alves wins more of the fights that go past the first round than he loses, and that's just the facts about it. So you have to be a certain level to get Warley Alves fatigued to that point. So I guess my biggest concern will be Warley Alves having a 10-7 round. He just beats the shit out of the guy, and then just by default, he has nothing left. I mean, you go on the highway and you pedal that metal, you go in 120 miles per hour. It's only, it's only by default that you're going to need to get some gas. You're going to stop and need you guys know what I'm trying to say. So I got Warley Alves here to light this dude up and welcome him to the UFC in very brutal fashion.
Listen, Warley Alves is the only human being on planet Earth with a clean victory over my boy Colby Covington. That's right, I said it. That tells you something. Now, somebody who beats Colby Covington in a fight doesn't lose to Jeremiah Wells. That's the math. Simple math. Doesn't happen. That's a clean win over Colby Covington. No one else can say that. He also went, as you said, 3 or 5 strong against Kamaru Usman. So I don't understand this fight at all, why it's happening. It's not a really
the reason it's happening is because Ramazan Ameev pulled out of the fight with Alves. They needed a last-minute replacement, and I guess they owed Jeremiah Wells a fight because he was supposed to fight Baeza. That fell through. So he was willing to step up on short notice, and that's the bottom line. And he's not a big – he's big in terms of muscle, but he's kind of short for the weight class. He's 5'9". He's 34. So he took the opportunity. Look, all respect to him. And he actually just got promoted to black belt a couple months ago. So much respect. It's just, there's levels to this shit.
It's a lot. Another one is a -225 fight doesn't go to decision. It's a fight that you really need exposure to, and a lot of it. Let me just take a look at where my boy Alves is priced, 9,200. So, again, if I'm looking at Julia Avila, Hanato, Moicano, you see this zone here. Who was the other one that we already talked about, priced up top, this high? But Avila and Prachnio, I like Alves as part of this group. He's definitely, one of the better plays here. Maybe Fili, maybe Prachnio, but I definitely like Alves as one of your pay up options this week. He seems like a pretty strong case to win the fight. He's going to need a finish to pay off, and he has not been known as a high scoring type of fighter throughout his career. He just hasn't had those high scoring wins, doesn't throw a lot of striking volume most of the time. So we'll see how that goes. But Alves is the pick here, no doubt. And you guys were all over that, so not much to add. All right, let's move on. Shavkat Rakhmanov taking on Tractor Michel Prazeres. Shavkat minus 300 as the favorite, with Prazeres plus 250 as the underdog in this one. Fight goes to decision. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 150. So we've got a reasonably good no decision prop. Now, BigMarley, I'll go to you on this one. We know Tractor wants to get takedowns. What's the fighting style of Shavkat, and is he going to bring it to Michel and take him down and kind of flip that script?
Yeah, I mean, he might. He's a good striker, much better striker than Prazeres, and he's a good wrestler as well. I don't know what he'll look like if he's on bottom of Prazeres, but at 40 years old, coming off a 2-year steroid suspension, when he looked terrible on the steroids, I don't know how Prazeres is going to have more than one round to get it done in this one. I think he probably does get Rakhmanov down maybe once or twice, but I think he's going to need to smother him and work his way to a submission, or on the feet just land a big, heavy knockout or something like that. But Rakhmanov's got like 10-inch reach advantage, like 7-inch height advantage here. He's a much crisper striker, throws the better shots, bigger bombs. And he might even be the better wrestler. I think he could take Prazeres down and kind of dominate him in top control, especially after round 1. He might have his way with him in rounds 2 and rounds 3 here. He's never been to a decision either, so I like Rakhmanov quite a bit here. I think he does finish Prazeres at some point. I don't think Prazeres has ever been finished before, so I guess it's kind of hard to rely on that. And who knows what Rakhmanov will look like in round 3, I guess, but I just think all the advantages go to Rakhmanov here, and I'm picking him to get it done. So I like him in all formats. Prazeres would be a GPP only play because I think if he wins, it's going to be early. But I probably won't get too much of him. It'll be more of a hedge for me.
Now, Dan, does Rakhmanov have takedown defense? I mean, I think that's what the fight comes down to for the most part. Can he keep it standing? Can he counter wrestle? He's got a name that sounds Dagestani, but he's actually Kazakhstani.
Yeah, I mean, of course, bro. The Kazakhs can fight too, man. Look at Damir Ismagulov, one of his main training partners. Like, he kind of reminds me of Damir, just maybe a little greener, but with more like killer instinct and more flash in his game. He's very intelligent. He's been fighting for a long time. Maybe he gets taken down, like Marley said, the first 1 or 2 times, just because Prazeres is no slouch, but I only think Prazeres has one strong grappling exchange in him, man. I mean, listen, the reality here is that Prazeres' last fight against Ismail Nardiev, he made people think that that was like some once-in-a-lifetime performance, that Nardiev was this, hot prospect, and Nardiev got cut, not too long after, man. And not only that, you take it a step further, and it's like some of those spots where in the past Prazeres would have kept that top control, and he was getting swept easily by Nardiev, who in his losses was held down no problem. So I think it's just a sign that he's just starting to get up there in age. There's nothing wrong with that. Prazeres is a badass. This is a guy that beat Gilbert Burns. This is a guy that's had an 8-fight win streak in the UFC before. He hits like a truck. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So I got all the respect. It's just that he's 40 years old, man. There's nothing wrong with being 40 years old. It's just that you can't expect these guys to keep winning fights. Like, look at my boy Alexi last week. I know Matt Brown won, but Matt Brown's, you know that he's got the Lima brothers number. He knocked both of them out in the second round. But back to this, you talk about the USADA suspension. Remember last week people were talking about Bruno Silva as if like the USADA suspension would affect some 30-year-old who looks ripped out of his mind. But guys, now we're talking about a 40-year-old. Here is where the USADA suspensions matter. And we're not just talking about some tainted supplement or marijuana. No, this guy got suspended for 2 years for taking anabolic steroids. He didn't contest it. He didn't dispute it. He got his 2-year suspension. And you want to take it an even step further. His fight against Nardiev was in February 2019. He tested positive in March 2019. That means he was on steroids in the Nardiev fight, and he still looked like shit. So when you hear people talk about, what if he's got a masking agent now, or what if he's on the juice? Like, I don't give a fuck if he's on the juice. I saw him on the juice his last fight, and he looked terrible after 2 minutes against the guy who ended up getting cut, who turned out to be a fraud. So, yeah, give me Shavkat here, man. I mean, look, maybe – worst case scenario, get taken down the first round, hang on, whatever, no big deal. Just don't get finished. And then I think he comes back. I think after the first round, or maybe late into the first round, that's when, the 10-inch reach advantage is going to start to come into play. That's when the 13-year age gap is going to start to come into play. Because even in, Prazeres' fights during his prime, he'd always start out strong, but he has some gas tank issue, but he could bail himself out with these takedowns. Like I said, while he's fresh, he might get a takedown or two, but when he's gassed, he ain't gonna bail himself out with nothing. He's gonna bail himself out by tapping out for the first time, or by letting the ref intervene when Shavkat starts to ground and pound. So I got Shavkat to get another big win and to extend his win streak.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Kazakhstani fighters, they got the special sauce. Fermented horse semen drink, doesn't show up on the USADA test, gives them that extra energy coming out of Kazakhstan. Very special, right? But the big thing that's the advantage, this guy is 6'1". He's going up against a 5'6" tractor. So that's why I keep coming back to, like, if they're standing, this is a giant man next to a little man. This is like Duran Win 2.0, like a little guy. If he's not doing the wrestling, he's not going to win the fight. It's that simple. So this whole fight for me comes down to, can Shavkat stop the takedowns, and how many of them can he stop? I believe, one advantage I think that you have when you're tall like this is you put that arm down, you push yourself back up against a shorter opponent. It's the same reason that Frankie Edgar had, even when he got like a takedown against a Max Holloway, and obviously this isn't Max Holloway, but even if he could get him down, Holloway just pop right back up, no problem, because you have that length of your hand. You just push yourself back up when you're down. The guy's smaller than you. He can't really hold you down as well. So this is Shavkat's fight to lose, in my opinion. Hard to go against my boy Tractor in the sense that, like, he was an underdog in a lot of that fights in that giant run that he had. And much like, some of these other fighters that come through as underdogs, you hate to doubt them because they've come through as underdogs in the past. But overall, got to go with Shavkat here. A little Kazakhstani superpower takeover against the old guy who hasn't fought in a little bit. So give me Shavkat as well. And I like the inside the distance prop here on this fight. I'm a little surprised by it, but I like it. So it's a fight that I definitely want exposure to across all formats. All right, moving on. We've got Kennedy Nchukwu taking on Danilo Marquez. With Nchukwu coming in as a -135 favorite. Danilo's coming back at +110. I mean, I don't even know how to classify Kennedy, Dan. I don't know how to classify him as a fighter. Raw, powerful, great size, striker. I don't know what he is. But he looks pretty good. And he's taking on Danilo, who wants to do one thing, and that's grapple. So how do you see this one going?
Yeah, listen, I think Kennedy's a badass. He's just really green. I mean, how many fights does Kennedy have? Like less than 10, right? He's got to have less than 10 fights, right? Tell me what the number is.
Grab it on screen here, but it's not a lot. And 9 fights so far. There we go.
Okay, exactly. He's had less than 10 pro fights. You see big improvements every time. This guy's a specimen. He's a freak. He's got that toughness too. You saw his last fight. He was in there with like a credentialed kickboxer. He took all the shots, wore the guy down, showed, his UFC experience, which is, I talk about a guy that needs experience. He showed off his experience in that fight. He's got one punch knockout power. His takedown defense is good. His get up game is good. It's just comes down to, you got to respect Danilo Marquez's jiu-jitsu game, man. I mean, it cashed me my biggest underdog ticket of 2021 when he fought Mike Rodriguez. He was like +220, and I cashed him against him. So I got a lot of respect for Danilo Marquez. He's got a very good body lock game. He's got a good single leg. His back takes are on point. His jiu-jitsu is great. He trains at King's MMA. So if he can get Kennedy into these spots, he can win. And then on the flip side, if Kennedy can make him work, start to make him gas out, and then make him start shooting from a mile away, then you start to use your reach. Kennedy wins like that. So I agree with the opener being that minus 115 coin flip type fight. So now I actually think the value is kind of on Danilo. This is tough, man. I really don't know. Like, I seriously don't know. But I do have a coin right here somewhere. So basically, heads will be who do you guys want heads to be?
I mean, give me Kennedy heads. Let's go.
Kennedy heads, Danilo tails. Hold on. It landed on tails, so I'm gonna go with Danilo Marquez via rear naked choke.
There it is. Danilo, the Danilo Gorillo. Big Marley, do you have a strong take on this fight at all?
No, I think you got to be kind of crazy if anyone thinks they have a strong take on this fight. It is a coin flip. It may not look like a coin flip. Either one of these guys could completely dominate the fight. It's just a striker versus grappler matchup, and where's this fight going to take place? I picked Kennedy because he's the younger guy. I think he can get back up. But Danilo, if he can get takedowns, he's got a heavy top control game. He can just rack up top control time or work his way to a submission. So I think on DraftKings, because Danilo's cheaper, I could just build a couple more lineups with him than I can with Kennedy. So he's my preferred play of the two. But I'm all in almost on this fight. I want to load up because I think it's a Kennedy knockout, or it's a Marquez submission, or just completely top control ground game where he scores high either way. So probably going to be in 75% or more of my lineups. And I'm saying Marquez is my preferred play just because that saves me $200. I could do a lineup with Worley Alves, and I could do a lineup with Moicano, but I could only do the Moicano one if I'm putting in. You know what I'm saying. But load up on it. I think one of these guys might just dominate the fight. I don't know who that'll be though. I'm picking Kennedy.
Yeah, for me, I'm going with Marquez here. I kind of like Marquez. I don't just like. I'm not just picking him. I like Marquez. I like the skill set he brings to the table. Should be kryptonite for someone like Kennedy. I want to see Kennedy in Chekwu take on a guy who's going to grapple the shit out of him. If you're green the way that he is, and you go up in an elite BJJ specialist, a submission specialist, like what, I don't know, elite. That's what Danilo does. That's why he's in the UFC. So to me, this is a bad matchup for Nchukwu. I'd rather see him go up against like a Tim Means type guy. A good striker, going to keep it. I think this skill set that Danilo brings to the table is not going to be.
You want to see Kennedy and Nchukwu versus Tim Means? Why you got to do my boy Tim Means like that?
That's what I'm saying, though. Let him take on a guy who wants to strike with him. Let him battle it out.
But this 205.
I know. You know what I said? Style, right? Style. Because 205, I can't even think of names anymore.
Who's the Tim Means of 205?
I don't know. Sam Alvey. I don't know. Like, who is that guy? How about him against what's his Michel, the crazy guy, the backflips guy.
Yeah, but that's welterweight again. We're talking.
Oh, he's not a 205. Fucking hey, man. That's
so okay. How about all right? This is not Tim Means. This is the opposite of Tim Means. But you want him tested against a Devin Clark type guy or something like that.
Give him Prachnio or fucking Villanueva.
Exactly.
No, Clark is going to grapple. I mean, I think when you're raw, like in Chekwu is, the worst thing his worst skill set is probably his actual jiu-jitsu. Like, he's probably learning jiu-jitsu, but very well, becoming good at jiu-jitsu or wrestling takes a lot of years. So there's a learning curve to get to that point where you can counter wrestle. So we have to see if Kennedy's counter wrestling is good enough, because I think when Danilo takes him down, and I don't know that he's going to know the technique to get back up, that he'll have that skill set. I could be wrong, but that's the problem with these raw fighters. They go down, they don't really have the technique, knowing you got to push this way or twist your hips that way, that you get from repetition to get back up and get the fight back to where this guy needs it. Because he's a specimen on the feet. Like, you see this guy, he's a fucking specimen. you know, he's from Nigeria, Kamaru Usman, freaking these guys are some of these fighters, they're physical specimens, but you know, that skill needs to catch up. That's all I'm saying. Like, I'd like to give him some strikers first before you get a grappling opponent. And they gave him Paul Craig already. Paul Craig subbed him. I think we might see a similar result here. So I'm going with Marquez here until Nchukwu shows that he has counter jiu-jitsu. I've got to go with the grappler over a striker who I don't know has the technical capability once he's taken down of standing back up. I just don't know he's got it. And I saw Danilo in his last fight do a pretty good job of executing a heavy grappling game plan and giving his opponent really no outs from it. I'm trying to remember who the hell that was now, of course, but
Mike, your boy Mike Slow.
Yeah, it was Slow Mike. I mean, Slow Mike sucks, but nonetheless, we saw him wrestle the shit out of that dude, and Slow Mike had no answer for it. None. So I think you do the same, even though on the feet, I think Danilo just does not look very good at all. So it's going to go that way. But I like Marquez here a little bit. I like him as a play. I was one of my favorite plays on the card, really. All right. Next up. Actually, I'm going to say before we do next up, guys, you're watching the show. Remember that if you want our picks, our cheat sheets, they continue to get filled out, plus the Domination Station Optimizer, ownership projections, all of that stuff to help you create your lineups. Go to DFS Army, get signed up as a VIP. You can get signed up for an MMA subscription, whatever you want. We've got you covered. You get the picks from Big Marley. You get the breakdown from Big Marley. You get the picks from Dan, the cheat sheet from Dan. Everything, and me too sometimes. Don't need to look at those, but I'm in there too. But all that stuff that you need to crush on DraftKings, Fanduel, Super Draft, get signed up at DFS Army. And of course, if you like this podcast, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel so we get notified next time we go live. All right, guys, let's move on. Next fight on the card, we've got Renato Moicano taking on Hai Herbert. With Moicano coming in at minus 250 and Herbert at plus 200, the underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision. A massive minus 225, people. Interesting. Finish expected, Dan. So, Renato Moicano, up and down career. How do you see this one going?
I mean, the thing with Renato Moicano, it's only been down at the very top, right? Like, the guys he's been losing to are all fantastic fighters. It's just the issue is the fashion in which he's losing is where I have concerns, right? Because it's not like he's losing these hard-fought decisions. It's like he's getting knocked the fuck out. And it sucks to see because Renato's so damn talented. I mean, he was ranked number 3 in the world at one point for a reason. Like, you don't make it to number 3 in the world unless you're, legit as hell. And his skills are legit as hell. It's just his chin isn't legit as hell. And you can say, oh, it was Fiziev, it was Korean Zombie. But it's more than that, man. You've seen in some of these fights in the come-up that, like, man, a hard hitter could possibly really hurt him and make an impact because, Renato's got a bit of that tall man's defense. And here with Jay Herbert, I mean, Jay's definitely not as talented as Moicano, but I was impressed with Jay's UFC debut, man. To go in there with a guy like Trinaldo, and it's not just that he put up a tough fight, but it's like he knocked down Trinaldo. He took down Trinaldo. Like, he had success in the stand-up and in the grappling, and he made it like a real war where, like, the UFC veteran came out on top. Trinaldo's such a beast. You saw Trinaldo's last fight against Muslim Salikov. He was completely outclassed, but he still fought like such a dog. Like, you got to love a guy like Trinaldo. So, honestly, guys, like, I understand Moicano being favored because he's the much more skilled guy. But I ain't sleeping on this Jay Herbert kid here, man. Like, plus 200. He's hungry as fuck. He proved that he can hang with a serious vet in Trinaldo, and he also proved that he hits like a truck. And now I'm not just talking about those knockouts he had in Cage Warriors. If you can knock down Trinaldo, that means you hit hard because Trinaldo's got a chin on him. I'm worried about Moicano here, man. I really am. Like, Moicano, at least he's got a good mindset. Like, you hear his interviews, he took accountability for all his losses. He said that for the Zombie and the Aldo fights that, basically he was getting too cocky and, basically that he he started blaming all the wrong people, but he said that eventually he decided to put the blame on himself. So I respect that. But then in the Fiziev fight, he said that he started getting carried away because he had a little bit of success in that fight. So it's one of those things where it's like if Moicano takes Jay Herbert's back, I'm pretty confident that Moicano will tap him out. But if Moicano, maybe has a little success standing, gets carried away, I can see Jay Herbert putting him down. So this is a dog or pass situation, actually, in my eyes. And I might even end up betting the dog. Pure pick, I'll take Moicano, but I don't know, man. This is dog or pass for me.
Interesting. Big Marley, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, that chin's a real question mark on Moicano. And if it's tested, I mean, Herbert's going to score well. No matter what round it comes in, I think he's going to score well, and he could be on the optimal lineup. But I just think he has to get a knockout to win this fight. Moicano's got a big edge on the ground, and I think he's the better striker as well. He'll have the higher output. He is a very high output fighter, good jab. I just think he can really piece up Herbert on the feet, but it might only take one shot. He could piece him up for 3 rounds and still get his ass knocked out in the third. So it's do you want to trust the chin or not? He is the most expensive fighter on the card. I want some of them. I think he definitely has a path to a first round submission. That's his best chance of scoring high, though. He's never had a knockout in his career, which is kind of surprising. I mean, he's a really good striker. He just doesn't have the power behind his shots. So I don't want to bank on him getting his first knockout here. And he's also not a chain wrestler at all. So he really needs to lock up that submission for a high score. I don't think we have to target him, but I think he does have a big skill gap in this fight. And if I can afford him, I'll be throwing him into lineups. Herbert is somebody you can't be fading in GPPs, though, because he could absolutely test that chin in round 1 and be on the optimal lineup. So good GPP fight both ways. I'm picking Moicano to get a submission.
There we go. I mean, I like both your takes on this and the way it's broken down. Moicano, can you really trust a guy who has been getting knocked out a lot recently and making excuses? Or, I mean, he said he wasn't making an excuse, then he made an excuse. I got a little too excited. That doesn't sound very trustworthy to me. Hebert, for nothing else, he has been a finisher, and that's been a weak point for Moicano. Now, that being said, Moicano is still a guy that beat Calvin Kattar. This is a guy who's got great technical striking. So I think it's a close fight. I think the takeaway here is while you want to have a lot of this fight on DraftKings and Fanduel and Fantasy, definitely not an all-in fight for me on the Moicano side. A little too expensive, the most expensive fighter on the card considering the question marks and also his fighting style, which doesn't always lead to a finish. And so it's not an all-in fight, but I'm probably going to go other ways in cash from my pay-up option. Like for my safe, definitely going to get a win guy. Pay-up been in tournaments for sure. Anytime you got a guy that's shown chin issues against an opponent who can throw, I want that opponent just in case he lands. I mean, in case he does it. Yeah. Oh, I'm just chatting with one of our commenters here, Jonathan, man. First and second place last week in the big tournament. So congrats on that. I thought it was you, but I can never tell because the names don't match. But John used the Dom Station last week, our optimizer, to take first and second. That big tournament fucking nailed it. Showed me that lineup midway through the card, and I'm like, dude, I think that has potential. And it did wind up winning, which was pretty awesome. All right, let's move on, guys. Next fight. The Dirty Bird, a.k.a. I call him the disappointment machine. That's my name for Tim Means. He disappoints me many times. Minus 140, taking on Nicholas Dalby at plus 115. Disappointment machine. Fight goes to decision very high, minus 187. So, I mean, Marley, why do I call Tim Means the disappointment machine? The guy just, you watch him fight, you're biting, if you have money on him, you're fucking biting your fingernails the whole time. There's no chill. There's no, I got this. It's all nerves and concern. Anytime this guy's a favorite, my spidey sense is tingling. But you tell me here, he's taking on Nicholas Dalby, Tim Means, getting up there in age, coming off a couple of wins. I mean, the ghost of Mike Perry showed up. Even I was biting my nails in that one. And Mike Perry was fat and slow, doesn't move his head, looked like a horrible. And I was nervous. beat Staropoli. Okay. So what do you think happens here, man?
I think Tim Means boxes Dalby up to get the win. My big question marks with him, or the way I would see him losing, would be a knockout. His chin's getting a little more questionable as he gets older here. Or like a poor decision. He's been robbed before in some fights, and Dalby's coming off a robbery win. So, I mean, maybe just judges I just see that in my mind where, like, you clearly think Means wins the fight, but somehow Dalby's the one that gets his hand raised with the decisions we've seen lately.
You thought that was a robbery win against D-Rod?
Yeah, D-Rod absolutely beat him. I mean, he outstruck him in every single round. It just says win on the scorecards, but that's just relying on some shitty judges. I absolutely think Daniel Rodriguez won that fight, and I was shocked when they read it off. Like, if I had a bet on it, I would have marked it off as I won that fight type deal. And I think Means does the same thing. He's just a higher output striker here. It's more so his punches versus Dalby's kicks. Either one of them can land takedowns, but I think this is more so a striking fight. And Means is the one who scores in striking fights. He's coming off 2 decision wins. He scored 90 and 103 in those decisions. Dalby can't do that in a decision. He just doesn't have a high enough pace. He would need to really wrestle to get there in a decision. So I think Dalby's KO or bust Draftkings wise. So I really don't have much interest in him. And with Means, any win, he can outscore this $8,400 price tag. So it's Means or pass for me. And I do think he is the better, cleaner striker with the higher output. So I'm picking him to get the job done.
There you go. Strong take there. Dan, what's your take on this one?
No, I mean, I 100% agree. What's interesting about Dalby is sometimes he'll surprise you. It's like he'll lose to like the really shitty guys, but then he'll like beat some really good guys. Like he beat Zaleski in Brazil. He beat Dan Rodriguez, which I thought was a robbery too. He had a draw with Darren Till. He beat Alex Cowboy, which there was some bullshit that happened in that third round with the referee stand-up when Alex was on top. Cruising to a win. So I don't know. It's tough. One thing about Dalby is he's extremely tough, but like he gets dropped in almost every single fight, man. And against Tim Means, that's not a game you want to be playing. Like to have that game where you're going to get dropped and come back and this and that. Like, I don't know if Tim Means is the guy you want to really do that against. And, you know, it's easy to sit here and say, oh, you know, he just beat Staropoli and what, like, dude, come on. This guy's been in the UFC 10 plus years. Like, we don't have to like bring up like handpicked wins. Like, let's bring up his skills. Look how sharp his hands are. Look at his parrying game. He's been getting some submission wins along the way. He can mix in takedowns. Like, Tim Means is an established vet. Nick Dalby, his game just kind of relies on you gassing out, and then maybe he can squeak a split, or maybe he can take over from there. So if Tim Means does something stupid, then, you know, if Tim Means plays it safe and tries to fight close, then Nick Dalby is live to win a close decision, because Dalby doesn't win any other way aside from like a close split decision. So if you're banking on Tim Means fighting close and Nick winning, you know, eking out a split, then Dalby's the side. But I just think that Tim's too clean for him, and Tim is going to drop him. Just like, I mean, if you go on UFC stats, tell me how many times Dalby's been dropped. He's been dropped in so goddamn many fights, and against guys that I don't think Jesse Ronson's as sharp as Tim Means. You know what I mean? So I don't think Peter Sabota is as sharp as Tim Means. So yeah, I definitely Tim Means is going to hurt him, and I got Tim Means for the dub.
Man, Dalby had that ugly string of losses. Sabota, yeah. I mean, it was
even when Nick Dalby went back to the regional scene, Carlo Pedersoli dropped him. He gets dropped every single fight, man.
Very, very sketchy. How does he beat Eliza? You know, but then he was beating, you know, Easy D. I mean, Eliza, you know, Zaleski dos Santos. Like, he's beating that guy in it. So he lasted, and that guy's a fucking killer. So my problem here isn't so much on the Dalby side. It means he's getting up there in age. His reliability is down, which is why I guess the fight is lined really closely. I do think this fight is going to score well for the winner. I think Means, you know, we saw Alex Cowboy kind of put a beating on this guy. So, and Alex Cowboy, not that good. So it's a guy that Dalby beat. I think this fight is super close. I actually think it's lined correctly. I don't think this is some runaway win for Tim Means by any stretch. I think Dalby is very live to find a way here to get this victory one way or the other. So I think he's live. Means slight favorite. I'm going to go with the underdog in this one. Going to go a little different from you guys. And I just don't trust Means. He's been a disappointment machine for me. And, I bet him a bunch of these fights. I bet him against Perry. I put my biggest bet ever on him against Perry. And actually, I wasn't impressed. I thought Perry looked like so shitty that Means should have destroyed him better than he did. So, I wasn't that impressed. I was not that impressed. Again, with Perry being this stiff, horrible, I don't know, shell of what he used to be, Means did not do what I had hoped or expected. I bet on Means on that fight, and I regretted it. Even though I took the win, I regretted it. He just didn't look that great to me. So I'm going to go the other way here and go with Dalby, because just Means has been disappointing me personally. And I've fucking bit my nails down to the point where I don't want none of that. No more betting on Means. Like, he makes me nervous. Makes me nervous every time. All right. Next up, Andre Touchy Fili taking on Daniel Pineda. Here we go. Fili, minus 225 favorite with Pineda, a plus 190 underdog. Fight goes to decision. Fight doesn't go to decision, minus 150. So a reasonable doesn't go to decision prop here. Now, Dan, Fili, man, he's a well-rounded fighter. He could take you down. He could strike with you. There's really, he doesn't have many weaknesses in terms of obvious technical issues with his game. He's taking on Pineda. How do you see this fight going down?
Yeah, I mean, at the betting window, I think this is a dog or pass situation, just because with Fili's history, he's kind of a hot and cold fighter. He's very talented. He's got skills everywhere. He's got the size. I mean, as far as all the things on paper, like, Fili's got a lot of things going for him. It's just that, his fights he's just kind of a 50-50 fighter. He's slightly above 500. And Daniel Pineda, he's the definition of kill or be killed. He's either going to finish you in the first 7 minutes, or he's going to get finished, or he's going to lose a decision. I don't believe he's ever won a decision in his career. Maybe one total.
Nope.
I mean, I don't think he's ever won a decision in his career. I think it's a situation where Fili could get finished early. He's been finished early before. I mean, I remember Godofredo Pepe finished him early. There's been a lot of fights that he's gotten finished, that he's been finished in, period. And then also there's been some fights where he's kind of underperformed. And, maybe like the Michael Johnson fight. I think I saw Michael Johnson take his back, which is like something you wouldn't expect. So
was that Michael Johnson's only win in the last 10 years? That was the one win he got? Really?
I don't know. Click his record. Let's see.
Oh no, he got another one in there against Artem Lobov.
Okay, so that's
forgot
a good
that one.
But I mean, Fili is just, look, if Fili was like minus 135 or minus 150, then I understand, maybe wanting to place a bet on him. But Fili in the minus 200s when he can't be trusted, fuck that shit, man. So this is Pineda or pass at the betting window. And even on DraftKings, man, I think that his upside is big there, man. Because how many finishes does Pineda have on his record? He's got like 20 to 30 finishes.
27
Exactly.
out of 27.
27 finishes. So I mean,
every win for Pineda has been a finish.
Yeah,
exactly. So if you're gonna,
I got to see this. Hold on. Every win,
100% finish rate.
Wait, Pineda. Here we go. Finish. Are these two wins, Kennedy, and these no contests? Smoke some weed. What happened here?
Yeah, they were both big time finishes.
What's the no contest for? Smoking
he
weed?
he tested positive.
Weed though, or steroids?
Peds.
Steroids.
PEDs. Okay. I mean Trujillo. Some crappy opponents here, but finish.
I mean, he's made a career out of finishing people. That's the bottom line.
This guy's a finisher, man. Back to 2011. So
I mean, I'm gonna say Fili can extend them. I think Fili should be favored. It's just this price sucks, man. So dog or pass, but pure pick probably Fili.
I mean, I love all those finishes because those type of guys are kill or be killed a lot of times. So it does open things up for a little bit for Fili to get a finish if he's winning this fight and he gets this win. So that could score pretty well for 8,900. What's your take, Marley? I mean, do you have anything to add to this?
No, that's it really. Yeah, nothing else to add. I think Pineda's the preferred play of the two because if he wins, he finishes and he scores high. But I have Fili being the better fighter and probably winning a decision. But yeah, like you said, Pineda's style will help out Fili. It's just he's still priced at $8,900, so we like really need it to help out Fili for him to get there if he's not going to get a finish. So if I'm making one lineup, I'm more likely to put Pineda in there. I might end up with more exposure to Fili, like if I'm making 150 lineups, but dog or pass just for the ceiling. The boom bust is what I want in GPP, and that's Pineda right there. So he's my DraftKings play, but Fili's my pick.
I mean, one thing that encourages me just looking at the stats on this one is just the fact that neither guy has great takedown defense or really tries very hard and both guys will go for takedowns. So we could see a lot of grappling and a lot of potential scoring just from the fact that, like I said, Fili will mix in those takedowns. Looks like Pineda will mix in the takedowns as well. And neither guy stops them very well. So, yeah, I think Fili probably pulls this one out in the end of the day. I think Fili could score well in that win, but you have to have a little bit of exposure to Pineda because of his style. And if he does win, you know how he wants to do it. He wants to get that finish. But he is the older guy. Give me the younger Fili to get this win for sure. But I'm going to give it I like this fight for fantasy purposes, ranking across the board. I just like it. All right. This should be the co-main event, by the way, Dan. I mean, they went with Boser St. Preux as the co-main instead of Valeev Barcelos.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about what hardcore fans give a shit about. It's about OSP fought John Jones in the main event on a pay-per-view. So obviously he's probably got a way bigger name. Like, let's look up how many Instagram followers OSP has compared to Valeev and Barcelos. I mean, I bet you I got more followers than Valeev and Barcelos. So I think that's probably the reason. But yeah, obviously is Barcelos and Valeev a better fight? Fuck yeah, because Barcelos might be a future champ, but OSP is and it's heavyweights, like, you know,
and also more interested, like a funner fight to watch. Like I have almost zero interest in watching OSP take on Tanner Boser. But
I mean, listen, if OSP gets that first round Von Flue choke, it'll be fun for the fans at home. But yeah,
I don't want to watch that one. I want to watch this one. These are two guys who are both really good, Dan, and so, you know, two men enter, one man leave. Barcelos minus 225, Valeev plus 180. Fight goes to decision, a hefty minus 187. Doesn't bode the best for scoring purposes in terms of that high decision likelihood. But how do you see this one going down?
No, I mean, I just see this being a very competitive fight. I see it being a high level fight. I just kind of wish on the Barcelos side that, you know, he was booked to fight Rafael Assunção, right? I wish that they just kind of waited for Rafael to heal up and then they could have ran it, because, like, that's a higher ranked fight. That's a chance for Barcelos to really break into the rankings. I mean, he's 33 years old. Like, let's go ahead and, you know, take on a big name like Assunção. You guys know the guys Assunção's beat. He's got wins over TJ Dillashaw, Aljamain Sterling, Marlon Moraes, etc. Jorge Masvidal. Like, Rafael Assunção's beat everybody, man. So I really wish Barcelos took that fight, because this is a riskier fight here with Valeev, man. Look, Valeev, he's no slouch at all. He's a very hard kicker. He can wrestle. He's experienced. He's well-rounded. Like, he's the man. It's just that I think Barcelos is just better everywhere, man. You know, Barcelos, like, when I think of Valeev, I think of he could definitely be a top 15 guy. But when I think of Barcelos, I think this guy could be a future champ. Like, I think if Barcelos fought O'Malley right now, I think he'd tap O'Malley out in the first round. Like, I really think that this guy's skills are like top notch, man. His boxing's on point, his jiu-jitsu, his wrestling, his toughness. Everything he brings to the table, I like, but he's got to make his run right now because he's at that age.
Like, time's wasting. This guy's 34 years old, and a lot of time left.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's not that old, but he's got to make it happen right now. You can't waste any time is the bottom line. So that's why I wish he was fighting a Assunção. But I think that he edges the decision here against Valeev. Look, man, he's got experience fighting Russians. He fought Said Nurmagomedov. Like, if you can fucking break a guy like Said in that third round, like, I know that you got what it takes to be a champion. And I think that, you know, Valeev will be back for sure. Valeev is very talented, hard kicker, like I said, good wrestling, really tough. But I got to go Barcelos here, man.
There we go. All right, Big Marley, what's your take on this one?
Same. Love this fight. But I love Barcelos. I pick him over most of the division. Everywhere Valeev is good, I think Barcelos just a little bit better, and I think he's the better grappler as of the two as well. I think he's going to be the higher output striker who's more likely to get a knockout. When he wins, he scores, except for that Nurmagomedov fight. He's put up almost 100-plus fight in every one of his fights. And I just don't think the tools Valeev uses to beat guys and dominate guys will work against Barcelos. So give me Rayoni here. Can't wait for this fight, though. This is my second favorite fight on the card.
Yeah, definitely a fight I'm excited to watch. I totally agree with you guys. You know, Barcelos is the play here. Listen, Timur Valeev is 7,400. I don't know. I think Barcelos is the play. Barcelos also has really good takedown defense. I think Valeev, he's going to, he might want to try to take him down. Howney, 85% takedown defense. And contrast that to Valeev, only 50% takedown defense, going up against a Barcelos that wants to go for takedowns as well. So just based on the numbers, the volume is high for both guys. Just based on the numbers, you would expect that Barcelos would have more success with his grappling. That can be the deciding factor. So for me, that is the deciding factor. I like Barcelos as well. As far as is this a great DraftKings play or FanDuel play or fantasy play? I think yes. I think it's perfectly fine. He's not that expensive. I'm not 100% or even very confident that this fight ends in a finish.
Hey, real quick, how did Barcelos do in his last fight, which was a decision?
He did 96. Fine. He scored well. Yeah, he scored well against
So he'll cover that here.
Points. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. The volume is there anyway. As long as the takedowns are in there, he's going to score well. Again, against Saeed, he didn't score very well. That's fucking Saeed Nurmagomedov. Just beating Saeed puts you on another level in terms of where you should be respected. That win against Saeed, by the way, should have vaulted this guy at least into the top 10 in the rankings. So bizarre if he's not there
we
yet.
just gotta blame Asuncao for getting COVID. Like, what the fuck, Rafael?
That would have been it. And that's what the UFC loves to throw you in against the name to give you the status, the ranking,
Exactly.
in the Asuncao tail end of his career. Yeah, Asuncao could have pulled that win out too. You fucking never count out Asuncao against him.
We would have got a pretty good line on Barcelos there. I would have liked that.
All right, I'm going to intro this next fight by just talking about a loss that Ovince St. Preux had recently. This man lost to that fat, slow, steroid guy, Ben Rothwell, at heavyweight. Now he's like, if Tanner Boser was going up against Ben Rothwell, Big Marley, I think I'd pick, I don't know, it's like be a close fight. I think I'd pick Tanner Boser in that fight. Close.
Yeah, me too.
Probably take Boser. So now did we already see this fight? Like, did we saw a version of it where Ovince St. Preux is losing to Rothwell? Now he's going to fight Boser. So, I mean, let's just read it out here. Boser minus 185 favorite. I think the people betting saw the same Rothwell fight. We all did. Ovince plus 150 as the underdog. I mean, Big Marl, what's different about this? Like, where is not computing here? What's different about it?
Yeah, I mean, nothing really. This is a fight to fade for me. I just don't see either one of these guys getting there. I think they need a finish to score highly. It would be a knockout from the Boser side or a knockout or a submission from OSP. But I think Boser just point fights his way to a decision where he scores 70 points or something like that, and it's not going to cut it. Ovince should get this fight to the ground, look to wrestle a little bit. I think that's where he would have his biggest edge, but he doesn't look to wrestle much, so it's hard to trust for him to do that. And I think Tanner just doubles him up on strikes to win a decision. So this is a fight where I literally might X them both out of my player pool, even with 150 lineups. But the fight doesn't go to decision line. So Vegas thinks it goes to decision a lot less than I do. So that worries me a bit, but at the same time, it's the co-main event. I think that'll get more ownership on this fight as a whole than it should get. So exit out, hope for a Boser decision.
All the casuals, they're like, oh, I know Ovin St. Preux. But Dan, I mean, is this going to go any different?
Yeah, it's going to go way different, man. I mean, firstly, Ben Rothwell's 6'4" and he's like 265 pounds. He comes in at the heavyweight limit. Boser is one of the smaller heavyweights. He's like maybe 6 feet, 6'1", and he comes in at like 230 pounds. So fuck yeah, this is going to be different. He fights nothing like Ben Rothwell. Ben Rothwell's slow, plotty, but it's got that big one-punch power, and it's got that, you know, opportunistic finishing ability with that choke, whereas Boser kind of just, you know, runs away and kicks and like Boser's let me down, bro. Boser has really let me down. Like Marley is picking him because he's going to double him up on strikes. Like I thought he was going to double up Arlovsky on strikes. I thought he was going to double up Latifi on strikes, and he lost both those fucking fights. So
he did double up Latifi on strikes. He just had to lay on his back for 2 rounds.
So his ground game's in question. So that's the big thing. His ground game's in question. And now we're talking about the guy with either the most or the second most submissions in light heavyweight history here with OSP. So to me, the only reason I'm not confidently picking OSP is because I literally don't know what to expect from OSP every single time he fights. Like, I don't know if OSP is going to come out orthodox. I don't know if OSP is going to come out southpaw. I don't know if OSP is just going to stare at you. I don't know if OSP is going to come out and try to wrestle from the jump. Sometimes OSP does some unbelievable shit. He'll knock people out with one punch. He'll knock people out with head kicks. He's got the most Von Flue choke. He's got his own fucking submission. Like, OSP at times can do stuff out of a movie. Like, you saw that Kimura he hit on Ryan Gimo back in the day. Like, there's a reason that this guy has been in the UFC as long as he has, went the distance with John Jones. So if I knew exactly what OSP was going to do here, and I agreed with his approach in terms of, like, if I know his plan is to come out here and test this very questionable ground game of Tanner Boser, we don't know shit about Tanner Boser's ground game, except that the times that he's been taken out and he couldn't get back up. If I know for a fact we're coming out here to test that, then I might even bet OSP. But if I find out that the plan is to stand back and counter strike and it's going to be this 50-50 fight, well, then I still got OSP because it's plus money. But I don't know, man, because I could definitely see, you know, Tanner Boser. See, here's the thing. If Tanner Boser wins, he's probably just going to edge it out, right? He's probably just going to edge a decision. Like, the only times he's deading guys are Philippe Lins, who has no chin and no wins in UFC history. He's got 0 wins in the UFC. And Rafael Pezoa, I mean, does he have maybe 1 or 2 wins max? Like, we're talking about a guy in OSP here, like I said, who's been in the UFC a long time, and like, this is a completely different level. So it just depends how this fight plays out. I'm gonna go with OSP, man. Like, if he can just come out here and take this guy down, this is one of the smaller heavyweights. This is not Big Ben, who can threaten with a choke or who's just so fucking big that it's tough to take down. Like, Tanner Boser's small. Tanner Boser has a questionable ground game. So if we test this ground game, I think he can win. Hey, Jonathan, who has Boser ever killed? Philippe Lins?
It was Lins, man. We have
Philippe Lins, who has 0 wins in the UFC, and Rafael Pezoa, who is cut, by the way, and maybe has 1 win max or 2 wins max. Like, we're talking about OSP, who went 5 rounds with John Jones, has the most submissions in light heavyweight history. So this is not Philippe Lins, my guys. But it's just, since I don't know what to expect from OSP, that's why I can't put the stamp on the prediction, man. I want to put the stamp on it, but I just can't, because, you know, OSP, you don't know what to expect from him. But if he fights how I want him to fight, I got OSP here.
So I've got it up on screen. What I think is, if you were going to go with Boser for any reason, because I do think there is a very comfortable path to a decision victory for Boser here, you go Boser by decision plus 165. For DraftKings purposes, Fanduel purposes, that doesn't do shit for me. You got to pay up for Boser. Hell no. So he is an unfriend you situation. I'm just not playing him. But if I was betting him, Jonathan, if you want to bet that shit, it was a vicious. I felt like the finish on Lins was just, he hit him in the back of the head. Like, he touched the right spot in the back of his head. That's what I saw. It wasn't even, he just hit, you hit anybody in the back of the head, they can go to sleep sometimes. It's just like, it's one of those spots where you touch it, people go to sleep. But like, if I was betting this fight, and I needed to, and I was forced to pick one, I'd go Boser by decision plus 165. I think the most likely way it plays out, because I don't think that OSP has 2 takedowns in him. I think he might have 1. And if you get back up, now I don't know if Boser can get back up. I don't know anything about his ground game. But if you survive it, I'm not sure that OSP has a second takedown in him at all. So if Boser's winning, he's winning by decision. It's not going to score well either way. Neither one. You can't unleash. Neither guy is throwing a lot of strikes. We know OSP 3 strikes per minute at best. So the only way he's scoring is with some sort of a knockout or a Von Flue OSP choke at some point along the way. We don't really know. I like I said, man, this guy had a hard time taking down Ben Rothwell. I'm not sure that this is that much different from that. Maybe, but I'm not really sure that this is that much. Rothwell, you know, veteran. So to me, I think the most likely result is Boser by decision. But Dan, you're right. Listen, if he gets that takedown and Von Flue quick or pulls off some fucking third round Corey Beaston 25-8 head kick knockout, like what the fuck just happened? How did I lose all my money? I don't know. That's what happened against Corey Anderson. Oh boy, what did I just press? You know, he could do that. That's what OSP does. Fucking head kick, third round. Doesn't score well, gets the win. So to me, I'm fading the shit out of Boser. I don't want that decision win on my fantasy lineup. That doesn't help me win anything. The 60-pointer, like there are guys who will.
We're spending too much time on this fight. Just fade this fight.
Yeah, just fade the shit. But, well, I just want to say there are guys who are going to score more in a loss than like Boser will score if he wins on this card. So I don't want to play him. And now OSP, it's just a fade. All right. All right. We had enough of that. Jonathan just wants to root for the Canadians. Like, you know, I get that. All right. Main event, guys. Alexander Volkov taking on Cyril Gane. Gane? Is Cyril Gane the correct pronunciation, Dan? Like, we call him Gane. It's French.
Gane.
Gane? Gane?
Gane.
Cyril Gane?
Gane. Yeah.
There we go. All right. This is a close fight. Gane is minus 155. Volkov plus 130. Lots of people like either side of this fight. I'm hearing a lot of Volkov excitement. I'm hearing a lot of Cyril excitement out there. Fight doesn't go to you know what? 50-50 goes to decision. So big hitters, 5 rounds, still 50-50 goes to decision. Really interesting. So Dan, break the fight down for me. Main event time. Up and coming youngster in his prime, going up against the in his prime sort of. I don't want to say veteran, but the veteran in his prime.
No, I mean, this is such a great fight, and obviously there's a lot of strong opinions out there, and I understand. I mean, I think that Volkov's looked fantastic his last few fights. I mean, I think he's been a fantastic fighter for a long time, but specifically the reason I bring up his last few fights is because he, if you guys notice, he used to weigh in at like 247 pounds for all his fights, but these last 2 fights, he started weighing in at the limit at 265. And all of a sudden now he's sitting down on his punches. And because you remember that Blades fight, I think that fight was kind of like one of those turning points where he realized, like, if he wants to be champion, something needs to change. And what he changed was he put on that size. And man, those 2 performances against Walt Harris and Overeem, like, you know, goddamn, man, like that, he is a force to be reckoned with. So the thing with Gane is he is also a force to be reckoned with, but for completely different reasons, because he's kind of like a freakish athlete, man. You don't often see heavyweights that, you know, they're bouncing like for 5 straight rounds. They're switching stances. He's got a ridiculous arsenal of strikes, man. I mean, obviously, he's got a nasty jab game in terms of the fundamentals, but then you're seeing him at heavyweight going for flying knees. He's throwing head kicks. He's known for his kickboxing, and then he's out there getting unconventional submissions like heel hooks. So you can tell that even though he's only 9-0, that there's something special about this guy. So I think his finished product projects to be better than Volkov. Just he's a faster guy, and I think he's more well-rounded, and I think that his best version is going to be Volkov. My only concern is back to the experience thing. Even though this guy shown me he's passing his test. I mean, he fought the number 3 guy in the world and shut him down. I forget where I heard this, but someone said frozen strike, Jairzinho frozen strike.
I like that.
So like this guy Gane is really good. So my only concern here is not from the skill standpoint. I think that Gane is better than Volkov in the skill department. All due respect to Volkov, and I think that he projects higher. It's more so like, is this his time to receive that veteran lesson and maybe take an L, and maybe it's Volkov's time. That's my only concern. But man, I really think Gane's better, and based on skill, I'm gonna go with Gane. Everyone's on Volkov. That makes me feel more confident in Gane, so I will go with Gane. But yeah, my fear is not like Volkov like outclassing him from the bell or anything like that. My fear is more like Gane's cruising and then he makes a rookie mistake and gasses out or gets caught or something like that. So I'm gonna go with Gane.
Go with Gane, baby. Right, Big Marley, what do you say on this one?
Yeah, love this fight. I think this is like probably the highest level striking match we can get in the heavyweight division. I think they are also the two that could contest with Ngannou just by not going unconscious. Maybe they can land more punches than him and win a decision.
I want to point out that I don't agree that these two can contest with Ngannou at all. No one.
Well, they are the two.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think it's close to a 50-50 fight here. Gane, I've been saying he's going to be a champion, or he'll at least contend for the belt one day, and I'm still going to say that that's true. But I'm going to pick Volkov in this fight for the experience edge. I think he's got the higher output edge as well. I could just see him winning 3 rounds on the scorecards in a close fight. He has landed over 120 significant strikes in 3 3-round fights. Gane is coming off a 5-round decision where he just barely touched the 100 mark. So I think the experience and that high output is just enough for Volkov to get there. And I love how he's put on that weight. I mean, he's filled out his size, filled out his back tat along with it. And he just looks by far the best he's ever looked. I've never even thought Volkov would be near a championship contender. I wasn't big on him when he came into the UFC, but he's just completely changed my mind in the last 2 fights. And yeah, it was all from that Blades fight. He had to change something. And if he's going to face Ngannou, he needed to do that same thing as well. He needs to put on the size so he can really have Ngannou scared of his punches as well. This is all-in fight for me on DraftKings pretty much because it's 5 rounds. I think it will be a high output. We're in the small cage, but give me Volkov to get a split decision or 3-round win.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm going to add is that the discrepancy, it's like a 50-50 fight, if anything. The discrepancy in the salaries here, 8,700, 7,500 on a main event 5-rounder, means you borderline have to. If Volkov wins this fight and you don't have him, you don't win any money. That's just how it's going to go. Like, how few strikes can he land over the course of 5 rounds? How few? How few could it be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll see that 120 significant strikes in 3 rounds type output because you have to fear the power of Gane, even though he's not putting guys lights out. Just look at the guy. You got to be a little bit scared of him at least. I think Volkov's kind of a little bit more technical and just that experience. He has as many losses as Gane has total fights, and then he has 33 wins to go along with it. So I just think that goes a long way in a 5-round main event fight where it has title implications.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, like, they're the same age, guys. Let's not like put one guy as an old guy. They're the same age. There's not a difference in the age here. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Volkov as well. Listen, Gane, the dude is big. He looks scary, but he's not Francis Ngannou. Sure, you can uppercutting people unconscious at all. He just hasn't done that yet. Doesn't mean that run of the power won't come together for him. And he could knock out Volkov unconscious in the first round, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. But in general, that's not what he's been doing. So for me, the cheaper salary, the veteran, the guy with more wins or more fights against real opponents, I'm going to go with Volkov in this spot as my pick. But Marley, I agree with you. All in fight, doesn't matter. It's a fight where you need to pretty much have one side or the other in your lineup, almost every line, especially on this card, where it's not like there are all these middling fights that really stand out as going to score well for Fed. Like there's a lot of fights on this card that just look like full fade situations. So when you start crossing off, you're like, up, fight 2, no, you got a few fights here like where you're just crossing names off the list, like Avila, no, I don't want that. Rosa Janes, meh. Medeiros, Hazovic, not looking so great. So at that level, like, am I going to play Yancy Medeiros or am I going to play Volkov? When I have that much salary, I'm playing Volkov in that spot. So give me a Volkov as my pick as well. I don't think that the salaries or the line is appropriate here. I think it's a 50-50 fight. Wouldn't shock me if Gane wins either, but I'm going to go with the cheaper guy in this spot every time. All right, guys. Killshot time. And I've got our boy Vince. He did phone in a kill shot before the show. He couldn't be here in the comment section, so he DM'd me this. He's got Yancy for the Hawaiian kill shot special. Trying
Hawaiian
to bounce back.
punch.
Yeah, a little Hawaiian punch situation going on, a little cocoa bombs. Kill shot didn't go so well last week, so it's time to turn that bad boy around. Who do you have, Dan?
I'm gonna give y'all 3 kill shots, man.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna give y'all Isaac, whatever his name is.
You like Ike.
Ike Villanueva to knock out Prachnio. I'm gonna give you Justin James to beat Charles Rosa, and then I'm gonna give you Jay Herbert to knock out Moicano.
I mean, these are. I like that you gave 3. Only one of those needs to work for that to be a killer kill shot. So if any one of those 3 things happen, that fighter is 100% in the nuts, and they're all going to be low owned. So good stuff. How about you, Big Marl?
Give me Tim Means to score 100 or more.
Dirty Bird. Ugh. I get the. I want to bite my nails just thinking about Tim Means. My kill shot this week is Danilo Gorillo Marquez to submit Kennedy Nunchukwu. That's what I've got. All right, guys. That is going to do it for this one. Remember to get signed up at DFS Army if you want to see our cheat sheets. Look, I keep doing research after this. I could have the whole different fucking picks by Saturday morning. You don't know. Got to check out my cheat sheet to put my plays on there. All right. Got the Domination Station Optimizer, Research Station. You got Marley's 50,000 word breakdown of this card. It's all there at dfsarmy.com. Get signed up. We got an MMA specific membership, $24.99 a month. That's almost free. Dan, that's basically less money than I spend on like coffee this week.
Yeah, I know, man. I mean, I haven't seen a better deal anewhere.
That's the shit.
We got Conor McGregor coming up, so everyone will be playing on that card. You might as well sign up. This won't be free for that card, right? Going behind the paywall. You like the Kill Shot podcast? We do this every week. Every once in a while, make it free. Let you guys know what we do here. But most of the time, behind the paywall, got to keep that info to ourselves. So if you want to crush FanDuel, DraftKings, Super Draft, Fantasy, whatever, you want to bet, whatever you do, get signed up. DFS Army is VIP. For myself, for Dan, for Big Marley, good luck, everyone, this weekend. Let's see those helmets to the top. Jonathan Martinez in the comment section. Hope you win another tournament this week. Let's do this.